you got to realize when you're playing poker, you have to get ahead. You must get ahead. And when I say get ahead, I mean you have to make a lot more money than your expenses, because you can't just cover expenses, because you have, like, let's say you're playing poker for 10 years. That's like 10 years off your resume, where you're not, like, for people that are like looking to hire you or something, for like, they're like, this guy was unemployed for 10 years. That's what they're thinking.
Exactly.
Well, there was a shift when the bots came.
Yeah, okay.
There was a big shift when all the bots came, a very big shift. But other than that, no, I mean, there wasn't like a huge moment like that. But like, yeah, like those German guys, they were basically bots. You know what I mean? Like, they were so good that they were kind of like bots. So it's kind of similar, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. They just studied it so heavy, and they made so much. I think Fedor made like 18, 19 million in that year. And he basically said, like, everybody was just theoretically bad live poker players. They were not good poker players. It's not that he was the best ever or anything. He said he got super lucky and everybody else was just not playing well. That's really the way it goes. And when you think about the landscape, this is also a question I always wanted to ask you. Do you think that you can plan for a shift in poker landscape? Is there anything that you can do to prepare yourself for the next shift? If a shift happens, like you, for example, you went to cash games, right? Was there anything you could have done before going into cash games to be prepared for that?
Just getting as good as you can at your current game. Like, because, for example, if you're really good at one game in poker, I think it's very simple to transition into another one. Like, for example, Dan Coleman, he was a heads-up beast, and he transitioned into MTT. So the only things that change are pre-flop ranges, right? So like, if you have like a really good, strong poker mind in one format, then you can switch to another format and get really, really good. In my opinion, within like 6 months or a year, you can be really good, like in another format, like really fast. You know what I mean? Like, if I dedicated my time to MTTs, I'm very confident in 6 to 8 months, I would be one of the top MTT players for sure. But I like playing cash games now. I really enjoy the cash games. But in the future, I may make that transition. But like you're saying, like, how can you prepare? Just get as good as you can at your format, so that when you start learning another format, you already have that process down of how to get good at a format. You know, so now you can transition into the other format and be like, I'm just going to do the exact same formula. Study X amount of hours, try to play consciously and implement everything that I've been learning, and keep an open mind, and all these things, all these mindset things, and dealing with swings, all of them correlate to different kind of formats. So yeah, that's what I would say. Like, just get as good as you can. That's the only way to like really come out on top of any poker transition that can ever happen. Is just because, like, even if online poker dies, if you've gotten so good at one or two formats, you can just move somewhere where there's live poker and crush it. You're just gonna crush it immediately, because you've gotten so good at these other games that, like, you're gonna go there and be like, oh, I can still win, you know, anywhere. As long as there's humans playing poker, you know that you're going to be studying harder than these guys, and you're going to be playing more hours than these guys, or you're going to be playing, or you have better focus than these guys, you have better strategy than these guys, a better game plan, better adjustments, like all those things. So it's like, it's a player versus player game, right? So it's like you're not playing against the casino, you're playing against other humans. And most humans are very lazy, you know. It's just the truth.
It's what David Goggins always says. If you are just a little bit more disciplined than everybody else, just a tiny bit.
Most humans are very lazy, man. So it's not like extremely difficult to get ahead. It is extremely difficult to make it all the way to the top, but it's not extremely difficult to get ahead of most humans, because most humans are just like, they're not like, they're just very lazy. They don't want to do anything, you know, for the most part.
And also keep in mind, guys, the compounding effect. If you improve like 0.1% or whatever the number is, right? But you improve every single day, just a tiny bit every single day, that compounds to thousands of percents over the years.
Yeah.
And that is what a lot of people misunderstand. They think it has to be like 10% now. No, it can be 0.01% now, and then tomorrow 0.02% and whatever.
You won't even
right?
notice sometimes the gains making. That's the thing. Like you literally won't notice it until you come to a day, you're like 8 months down the line, and you're like, oh, I've been studying every single day. And I finally had like a really big winning month. Or like a year and a half down the line, you're just like, I'm finally making like really serious money. And like you think back at it, oh, it's probably those habits that I had every single day that I was doing. Right. But if you don't have those habits that you're doing every single day, you're not gonna get to that point, right? So you just have to like trust that it's gonna work out. There's an element of trust with poker, you know? That's what I find some people have a hard time with as well. Especially people that are like just like getting into poker and they're working a full-time job. They're like, should I quit my job? I'm not sure. You just have to trust that like if you put in the work and you study every single day and you play every single day, however many hours you set out for, you know, you don't want to overwhelm yourself. Like I said, you don't want to like 2 hour studies, 6 hours of playing. Like that might be way too much for a lot of people, you know? So you want to cut down and do something that you can do every single day. And then after months and years, you're going to see the result. You have to trust that you're going to see those results. Otherwise, you won't be putting in that daily work. You know, you have to blindly trust this process, like with poker.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing like going to the gym. You're not going to see anything, and then all of a sudden you see everything. It's just the same thing. I have two more last major questions, basically. One is, in your experience now, what do you think are things outside of poker that poker players specifically are ignoring for too long? And I'll give you one example that I learned, and that was the concept of really understanding how money works in general. So the way I see money is that everything you do, like every day that you live, costs money. And you just have to figure out, that's just my opinion, how much it costs you per day. And all you have to do is figure out ways in any way to make more than you spend in a day. That's it. That's your first goal. And if I had understood that concept earlier, I would have way less stress in my life, at least. And so I started to invest money, for example, get money back, right? A little bit, piece by piece, every single day. So maybe I start out with like $10 dividend per month, right? And it doesn't sound like much, but next year it's probably $20, then it's 30, then it's 40. So basically, that is one concept that I would tell everybody to understand better, because it will take the stress out of poker, because you don't need to make that much money every single year. It gets lower and lower and lower. Is there anything else that you would say that poker players are not focusing in enough that they should?
Like financially specifically?
No, anything outside of poker. Any area.
Yes, multiple, man, multiple. I'll be honest with you. You know, speaking from personal experience, I was this guy that I'm going to talk about. Like, I feel like poker players in general, they sometimes get to a point where they become like antisocial, because when you're playing poker, you have to go out of your way to have a social life, unless you're living in like Bali or something like that. You know what I mean? Like over here in Toronto or Montreal or something. Like you have to try. You know, like most people, they have a job and they like go out after work to have drinks, or they have coworkers and stuff like that. Like in poker, you're very isolated. You're playing poker behind a computer screen, right? So in order to like have a social life, you really have to find friends from somewhere. You can't find them from work. Like you're just working by yourself. Unless you got poker players that live in, like, unless you're living in like Playa del Carmen or Bali, where there's a lot of like a big poker community, you know, like in these major cities. Like for me, like I have to go to like improv class. I got to go to the Toastmasters and like to meet people, you know, around the area. Otherwise, like I would only know Jason, you know, like how else am I going to meet people? Right. If I'm not doing any social, like how else can I meet people like in this major city? You know what I mean? So I feel like that's a neglected part in poker. And when that happens, when, you know, I'm speaking from personal experience, when that happens where you're just playing poker for like months and years and you're not really spending time with people very much at all, you just like, your emotions are like a seesaw, and poker has total control over you because it's the only thing going in your life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I think it's easy for some people to like just completely neglect all other aspects of life. So I would say that's something that's neglected. Another thing that's neglected is going to the gym. You cannot be a poker player without going to the gym, in my opinion. And when I say going to the gym, I don't necessarily mean you have to lift weights. You can go to the gym, any exercise, like go out for a one hour walk or a 30-minute walk or a jog or whatever, lift weights, whatever exercise you have, like you have to exercise because like it's poker's so stressful, you know? Like people don't understand, like people that don't play poker don't understand how mentally taxing poker is. You know, when you play like a 10-hour session of poker, your brain is fried. You know what I mean? Like you're just shot. You're like, if I play a 10-hour session, I'm sitting on the couch with my girlfriend and like she's asking me something. I don't know what she's talking about. I can't even pay attention. I'm just like, let's just put something on TV that's gonna numb my brain and I can just relax and so I can go to sleep after because I can't have a proper conversation. If I did a podcast after 10 hours of poker playing, I don't know what it would even sound like, honestly. I would be like, well, what was that, Pedro? What did you ask me? I have no idea. So those are two things, like definitely some sort of exercise, socializing. And then also the third thing I would say is going back to the finances, you know, what you were touching on. You got to realize when you're playing poker, you have to get ahead. You must get ahead. And when I say get ahead, I mean you have to make a lot more money than your expenses because you can't just cover expenses because anything can happen with poker. In 5 years, it might be gone. 2 years, it might be gone. I don't know. Like the climate might change. You might have a shift like we were talking about before. And you cannot put poker on a resume, right? You cannot go to your next job employer and be like, oh yeah, I was a professional poker player for the last 10 years. They're gonna be like, that sounds terrible. Go work, you know, like as a janitor or at McDonald's because you're not going to get a job. Like it's hard. Like you have like, let's say you're playing poker for 10 years. That's like 10 years off your resume where you're not like for people that are like looking to hire you or something for like, they're like, this guy was unemployed for 10 years. That's what they're thinking.
Exactly.
Or he was a debtor. Like, so you have to get to a place that if poker does die, you have some kind of safety net. You have some kind of safety net that's going to last you some time, you know, so that you can figure out maybe you have enough money that like maybe you can start a small business or something like that. You know what I mean? Because like getting hired is so hard after playing poker, and even working a job for somebody is so hard after playing poker. So I think a lot of poker players neglect that. They're just like, I'm just going to make money forever. This is always going to be here. They take it for granted and they'll play like if they need to make $1,000 and they can do that in like 20 hours a month, they'll play 20 hours a month. So they won't even try to get ahead. So I think that's a big mistake that poker players make. I think you have to do everything you can to get ahead and put money in stock market, like, you know, get those compounding returns, get the dividends or whatever, and just have something there because anything's possible with poker. Maybe next year the sites can't detect the bots anymore and the bots just come and take over everything and that's that. Like it's possible. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. But it's possible. And I think that we should take that into account.
Yeah. And also, again, like with everything we said today, start small. And like I said, like I try to tell every single person, like even if you put in the first year, you put $200 in the stock market, like just the first year, and you receive like 4%, let's just say, whatever, dividend. Like to a lot of people, that might sound like nothing, but it's a lot more than last year because last year was zero. Right. So basically, that is something that all the people have to understand. Start somewhere, even if it's very small, create the habit, do something. And ending, I would like to ask you, is there an end goal? Is there an end goal for every poker player that we should have? And is there an end goal for you? Is there anything poker related that we should have as an end goal?
Yeah, I think with poker, like it's kind of a weird profession because it's really about making money. You know, it's very simply about making money. It's also about like strategizing and like having fun with competition. But if there wasn't money involved, let's be real, like poker would just be like a video game that people play like an hour or two per week or something like that. You know, like nobody's gonna sit here and play. So I think the end goal of poker is just really just make as much money as possible for you, for whoever you are, so that you can do something else with your life. I think it's a means to an end. Like, I don't want to be playing poker when I'm 75 years old. You know what I mean? When I'm 65 years old, there's a shelf life, you know, and your brain probably gets worse. And we're like, as you get older, you're like, oh, no, you know, you don't want to deal with like, you know, losing and winning all this money. And like, you want to eventually, you know, do something else. So for me, like, ideally for every poker player, like we have like usually poker players are like entrepreneurial, I would say. Like they don't like working for someone else or a 9-to-5 job, like the standard, you know, life that most people live. So ideally, I think the end goal for poker players in general should be make as much money as possible so that when poker goes away or when you decide to not play poker anymore, you have options to maybe start a small business or a big business, or if you wanted to just put your money in the stock market and maybe live off of that kind of thing. Because
yeah,
I think it's a tool to get you to the next phase in life. That's what I would say. So like, let's say if your dream is like to open up a restaurant on the beach in Bali, use poker to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
Use the money in poker to do that. If your dream is like, you know, to open up a local coffee shop, okay, do that. That's fine. If your dream, like you might have a bigger dream, you might have a smaller dream, but like I see it as a stepping stone for like something even bigger that you want to do in your life. Because poker is not like, it's not like a fulfilling, like crazy, you know what I mean? Like you can't get too much fulfillment off of just becoming a poker player and making money off people that are losing. You know what I mean?
Can't you convince yourself though?
You can convince yourself. You can convince yourself, but it's not like, I don't think that's extremely fulfilling for most people. I think like they're using it as a means to an end. That's what I believe, you know. And yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. That's the way I view it as well. Like where I don't know what I would do afterwards. Like I really like real estate, so I might get into something like that. But yeah, I'm not sure. But I do think that it's like a very, in a way, it's kind of like a selfish profession because we're not really like helping society. You know what I mean?
I mean, let's be fair. Like a lot of things are not helping society. Like,
there's a lot of things that are not helping society, but I'm just saying like it's not like yeah, like I don't personally care that much about like, you know, this legacy and all this stuff. Like I'm just like I don't really care. I don't even believe like, because like let's say like after you stop playing poker like 20 years down the line, nobody's gonna give a shit anyways, you know. It's just
you're just a number and that's it.
Nobody cares. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm playing poker for 20 years. Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, wonderful. You know what I mean? Like nobody cares. Nobody cares really. I mean,
they don't even care right now. So they will care even less in 10 years.
Exactly. Like there was this YouTuber that was asked that question, and he's the first one that gave that answer, and I related to it. And somebody asked him like, what is the legacy you want to leave behind? He's like, nothing. He's like, I don't care. He's like, when I'm dead, like I don't care what people are saying about me or not saying about me or who's gonna remember. Like he goes, do you ever talk about or remember anybody from like 100 years ago or 150 years ago? Not really. You know, it's just like legacy is like an illusion, I think, in a certain kind of way. Like, you know, even yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody like Michael Jordan, you know what I mean? He has a legacy. He has like.
But he wanted, man. He pushed it hard.
But even Michael Jordan, like 200 years from now, like people are not going to give a shit anymore. Like they really aren't. Like 200 years. Can you imagine 200 years from now? Michael Jordan, who the hell is that? Who cares? It's a new name, you know. It doesn't matter, you know.
I mean, people don't even remember Larry Bird and Magic Johnson anymore. It's like they heard the name, but it's not like Michael Jordan. So it's like whatever, right? Yeah.
Those are like basketball players, like poker players. Nobody cares, really.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. I mean, like you only care like when you're in the industry and you look up to somebody, yeah. Right. Like you can care in that moment, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I don't know. Yeah. I don't see it as like this big. I used to see it as like this big, significant like achievement. Like I remember like my goal on SharkScope was to have that like crystal star, and I was like, once I have that crystal star, it's just I'm gonna be the best, you know, number one. But or like, you know how like Mike Tyson, like he always says like, you know, when he looks at his belts, he's like, He's like, none of this means anything. This is all garbage. Like the meaning of life, like this is all garbage. Like the stuff that mean more than anything is your close family and friends. You know, that's the only thing that really matters.
Yeah.
Not like who you were as a poker player or how much money you made in poker or whatever. I mean, that stuff is all cool, but at the end of the day, on your deathbed, that stuff's not going to matter. You know, it's going to be whatever. You're like, oh, people are going to remember my legacy. No, I don't think so.
Not really, man.
I don't think so.
There's actually a fun fact about Mike Tyson, and we can maybe end it there. Do you know how he became richer than he was while fighting? Do you know that?
How he became richer than he was while fighting.
Yeah, he's now richer than he was back then.
Is it
But he was broke. Huh?
Is it his podcast that's doing it?
No.
What is it?
So he was on, oh man, now I like this crazy guy. There's this crazy YouTuber, I don't remember, but he does that crazy podcast. And basically he got asked if he's broke if he's still broke. And he's like, no, man, I have more money than back then. He was on a flight and he heard the discussion. Two guys were discussing Bitcoin on a flight. And Tyson had no clue what the hell it was and how it works. And then he's like, okay, how can I get this Bitcoin into my hand, right? Like, how can I get it like an ATM or something? And these guys were laughing. And he was like, why are you laughing? And he's like, they were like, there are no ATMs. And he's like, wait, what? So people cannot just go to a store and buy Bitcoin? They cannot do that? And they were like, no. When he got off the plane, he still had a little bit of money, a little bit of connections. He got off the plane and he asked some guy in Asia somewhere. He's like, yo, can you build me ATMs? Like the simplest ATM with just an internet connection, whatever. He had no clue how it worked, right? At that point, he had no idea what Bitcoin was. And then they were like, yeah, and he is the biggest owner of Bitcoin ATMs in the world, besides companies.
I had no idea that was the case.
Yeah, what is his? There is this crazy guy that came from Disney, and then he made YouTube. He has like 50 million subscribers or something.
Yeah,
super famous guy. He's also into fighting. He's also into boxing. He had this Floyd Mayweather fight, the blonde guy.
Oh, Conor McGregor?
No. After that, whatever. I'll message you.
Logan Paul.
Logan Paul. Yes, exactly. And Mike Tyson, when he was in Logan Paul's podcast, he said that. Because they asked him, like, you were super broke. And he was like, yeah, but now I'm good.
Wow. I had no idea about that. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's a total random shit.
That's a good example of, like, fulfilling a need. You know, because he was like, if I want to buy Bitcoin from an ATM, I'm sure other people are thinking this too.
Yeah.
And, like, the thing is, like, a lot of people have ideas like that, but they never act on those ideas. They're like, we can't execute these ideas. He executed it. That's amazing.
Yeah, and he also said he had no clue at that moment what Bitcoin was, but he said when two nerds are so, exhaustively talking about something, usually they're the first to use it. And then the rest of the world uses it.
Yeah, he was definitely right, man. He was definitely right. And I have a regret about Bitcoin. I had a good friend of mine that I used to live with. His name was Johnny, and when Bitcoin, I don't remember what price Bitcoin was. It must have been like $500. He was like telling me and Jason, he's like, oh my God, guys have to buy Bitcoin. It's gonna change the world. And we were just like, we kind of shoved like that. Like if somebody told me about something like that now, I wouldn't be so close-minded about it. This was like years ago, when I had more of a closed mind, I had more of a ego. He was like, you guys have to get in this thing, man. You have to. He was like once a week, like he would drink some beers and he would rant about Bitcoin. And at that time, nobody was talking about Bitcoin. It was underground thing, we're just like, what is this Bitcoin, dude? Like, what is he even talking about? You know what I mean? Like, we never understood. Yeah, but yeah, you can't go back in time.
You can't go back. Yeah, like two of my best friends, they got into Bitcoin early, both millionaires now because of Bitcoin. And I'm sitting there, and I was actually the guy like you. I was like, what the hell are you guys talking about? That's just some bullshit. Not going to go anywhere. Yeah.
So now I try to keep more of an open mind. Like I'll listen to what somebody has to say and like try to understand it. If somebody was to explain to me now about this new concept or whatever, I may not invest in it, but I'm going to try to understand what they're saying and like why it could make sense. And if it makes sense, I might throw some money in there. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like back then I wasn't that way. I was just like, yeah, I didn't even come close to putting any money in there back then. I was like, it wasn't like I don't want to make it seem like I was like considering it. It was just a firm no.
Exactly.
So it wasn't like yeah, it was just a firm no. Yeah.
He's wrong. All right.
Yeah.
Let's end it there, Mr. Jack Stack.
Yes,
Is there any last words for the people watching? Anything you want to say?
Good luck at the tables, that's it. Good luck at the tables, good luck in life. And remember that life EV is a thing. That's the last thing I'll leave you with, because I neglected life EV for a long time. I was just like, poker EV is the only thing. If I go out to hang out with my friends, or if I have a girlfriend, it's going to cost me poker EV. That's the way I was thinking.
Right.
Life EV is a thing, and sometimes you got to sacrifice financial EV to gain some life EV. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But I think most people have the opposite problem. That's an issue probably I just dealt with on my own. Most people are like, yeah, I know life EV is a thing, Jack. Like, that's the only thing I care about.
I have a money EV problem.
Yeah. So most people on the opposite end of the spectrum. So yeah, but it's possible to be on either end. And I think finding the correct balance is GTO.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Thank you very much, Jack. That was amazing.
Right. Thank you.
So guys, have an awesome time, and don't forget to subscribe to Team 651, and I see you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.